I have a very honest question that I'd like all of you to answer. And at this stage, I feel India is at a cusp. It's at a cusp where we are moving towards co-creating global content versus being primarily a delivery hub. Do you agree with me or not? And what is your take at it? We'll go with you, Arjun.
Well, thank you, Sreyans. Good afternoon, namaste, and lovely seeing everyone. Particularly after lunch sessions are always tricky, so it's nice to see everyone here. Congratulations to Animation Express, Indian television, to do this every year. I think it's, no matter how hard the industry and the times are and how evolving it is always nice to be in a room full of cheerleaders, colleagues, and industry partners. So congratulations to Anil sir, Mishal, Neha, and the entire Animation Express team for having us here today. Sreyans, thank you for hosting. The subject, crafting global content, and your question about how things have evolved, I think fundamentally brings us to the definition of what does global content mean. We were discussing earlier that I think firstly, global content doesn't anymore mean Western content. And I think that's the first distinction that we as people sitting in India and Indian consumers are really celebrating. We're called the Global South sometimes, and we're called the East, but I think in many ways, one thing is for sure that the content is not driven anymore by what a Western ecosystem produces or creates or consumes. And I think that's where India makes its large entry. Right? I think in two sides. On the supply side, of course, the world has become smaller thanks to technology, thanks to the distribution of the technology. On the demand side, of course, today, we are seeing regional cinema, authentic cinema. Not, just before this, we saw Marathi cinema, at a very large stage, right? Yes. But also, if you look at what Korean cinema is doing in the world, what Japanese content is doing in the world, what Spanish content is doing in the world, I think it's proving in many ways that cinema, content, media, and entertainment is by definition global, right? Animation and visual effects and some of the domains that we come from. By definition, is language agnostic. By definition, is culturally agnostic. By definition, is geographically agnostic because we're dealing with creating worlds. We're dealing with creating characters and we're emoting and addressing emotion in those characters. So I feel fundamentally we're at an excellent intersection, not just of art and technology, but of content and consumerism, because India is only waking up now to watch this content. So the more we watch, the more global we become.
I'm going to have a follow-on question for you, and then we'll move to the others. You come from an investment banking background and ventured into animation and visual effects. How do you look at it? What is more global today? Is it the intersection of talent scalability and what we're creating, very structural and procedural, or is it the creativity that we bring on that's more global?
Shreyans, I think in my time that I spent in the world outside of entertainment in investment banking and private equity, I think the main learning has always been that any industry is never created from a few moments of brilliance. It takes...
Well said, absolutely well said.
Ecosystems, it takes infrastructure, it takes talent cultivation, talent development. It takes all of that to make something happen at quality. Animation in our world is particularly unique in many ways because at the heart of it, creativity is at the soul. And it's important that we acknowledge that, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, and the whole VAM summit has spoken about how in many ways technology will be replaced, will be more accessible. There will be moments where tools will be democratized. But at the heart of all of that, human judgment, human instinct, creative choice, tastes, preferences, all of this will continue, emotional intelligence will continue to dominate. Right? So what I've taken away is no big major studio in the world has either been heavily talent skewed or process skewed. Because somewhere great studios are built, great creativity comes from creating an environment. And I think that's exactly what my investment banking world taught me and what we're seeing now in our ecosystem as well.
What's your take, Abhishek? And I'll talk to you about Kingdom Games as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Animation Express, for having me over here and in this esteemed panel. I'm glad to contribute my 2 bits in whatever I've learned in the last 25 years in this amazing industry. So, coming back to global content. So honestly, I don't think there is any such thing as global content. Every content is global. When you talk of global content, it is about how do you identify and monetize in different markets around the world. So when we talk about, let's say, Hindi movies, let's take Dangal for example. Now, Dangal did more revenue in China than in India. So would you call Dangal global content or Indian content? So it's, when we are making content, so I always tell people that content is like ice cream. There is a chocolate flavor, there's a strawberry flavor, there's a lychee and angur and, everything. Different people consume different kinds of content. So in content, you'll have different genres at the same way. And within the storylines, you'll find somebody who's, liking comedy, somebody who's more into drama. So whatever content you create, there is a market for every kind of content around the world. Some content has a bigger market. Strawberry and chocolates are, very popular flavors. They'll have a bigger market. Lychee and angur or maybe things like that have a smaller market. But yes, every kind of content that you create has a market. Now you can create content, in a specific genre. There are a lot of content creators who create content for themselves first and then the audience. We as a studio want to create content for the audience because for us balance sheet and P&L matter more than the content by itself, and investors are after us all the time for that. So we do a lot of deep research on what is the flavor of the season, what is the kind of content that's being consumed across the world. We do a lot of research on the platforms that could carry our content, on the distribution methodology for the content, because it's all about distribution. See, content creation is the simplest part in the whole chain. What makes or breaks or what calls it local content or global content is how far and wide you can distribute that content.
And I'd pause you that. Do you agree or disagree that content creation is the simpler part, or do you think the distribution is the more...
Much of our conversation in the past few years have been about how to make content, right? And I think people who are not knowledgeable about this space, are now become experts because of the beautiful 2 letters called AI, right? So everyone's talking about AI films, right? People have stopped talking about films, right? And I feel that somewhere a lot of the exodus, a lot of the importance has gone into the how to make as opposed to the real question, which I believe is for whom to make and what to make.
What to make.
Right? So I feel the core crux of the content is always about who is your audience, but what story are you telling them, right? But 90% of our effort, our time, our attention, panel debates are about, cost of making the content and how to make it, which I think will settle down, but I truly believe that the who and the why is more important than how.
How? Okay, and I'll let you continue. We'd like to hear a little bit about Kingdom Games as well. From a VFX outsource company, what were your learnings that you have applied to create content that extremely global? Is there some influences from the yesteryears of you serving the industry that have come in and influenced the content creation and the IP creation that you're doing today?
So I think, when you create content for the global market, it starts with your own mindset. Most Indians think, if you see most of the Indian content that's been created with AI especially, it's a lot of mytho because, we have some lovely stories to tell out there. But then again, it comes to that, whom am I making this for? And what is my market? And, what is my monetization strategy for that? So when we went ahead and we started planning Kingdom Games, which is our first, what we call a global IP, we were very clear as a company that we wanted to make a global IP, something that will be consumed from Brazil to China to Spain to US to every country in the world. And I'm pretty sure the way we've structured Kingdom Games, with the kind of distributors we're talking to worldwide, it's going to be one of the very few Indian IPs viewed and loved by millions of people in over 100 countries. So, so Kingdom Games, we could have just made it very, local Indian story and thought that, okay, let's just, play this in India. But we took a global storyline because our strategy was distribution first. What will run in France as much as in China or as much as in Indonesia.
You mean to say that a lot of the influence of what the audiences in different parts of the globe are going to like is what influenced the thought process of building content, creating content?
Sure, because see, you can't please everyone, right? Everyone does not like every kind of content. We just tried to figure out where can we get mass? Where can we get most of the people to like, Kingdom Games as a movie? Well, even if, 3 out of 10 people like it, I think that's a great achievement because that's, 3 out of 10 people liking a movie is fantastic. It's very rare that you get 10 out of 10 people liking a movie. So, yeah, we did a lot of research on that, on what genre should we go after. It's our first movie, and obviously, we needed that to be a success.
I'm going to pose a question for Kabir. Kabir, India has been predominantly an instruction-led delivery center for the world. I mean, in the last 2 decades, and we've seen that a lot as well. I think India has been the back office of the world for visual effects. And that has dramatically shifted in the last 3 to 5 years, where we are seeing that you have a lot of creative partnerships that are coming through. Studios like ILM, you don't have to name it, I mean, you're rock stars yourselves. How do you look at this shift in your talent pool as well as in your organizations? How do you give emphasis for actual creative partnerships?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, and thank you Animation Express and VAM for inviting me here and giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts. So I have been part of this visual effects journey for the last 2 decades. Obviously, I started small with a small studio. I got exposure to international studios, and I worked with the best of the studios in the world. And I have been seeing the evolution of where, as you said, we were more instruction-led. And I think that was the phase where we were learning as well, the whole art and technology of doing visual effects. And we've kind of graduated to a level now that ILM, even though it's here now, it actually came, I would say, a bit late to the market. There were companies and more kind of established studios who are here for a very long time, and they've invested a lot in the Indian talent pool. And ILM just came at a time when the market was kind of very established and mature, and they were able to set up a studio, and we've been able to grow it quite fast. The shift I have seen is that because of like the mature market of talent we have right now, there is a lot more reliance on our input because it brings a lot of efficiency. Even though everyone, wants to give instructions, at the end of the day, if you're too much instruction-led, it creeps a lot of inefficiencies, right? You want to give the creative ownership to someone. Here's my brief.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Take care of it. Just let me know once you have something nice to show, right? And that's where we are stepping up. So I'll quote someone at ILM, like one of the people who interviewed me, and I was asking him the same, like, what's your vision to come to Mumbai? And he was like, don't think that we want to bring ILM to Mumbai. We want to bring Mumbai to ILM.
ILM. Oh, that's
right. So that's how he was looking at it. That's Rob Brett, who's one of our senior creative directors. And actually, how they see it as they are very keen to collaborate with us because they feel they are saturated at their end because they've been doing this for ages now.
Ages.
So they look up to us to bring fresh ideas. They look up to us because they feel we have the fresh perspective to it. They actually look up to us because they feel because India has become a melting pot of visual effects studios, right? So you look at ILM, which is predominantly a US-based studio. And we have studios here in India which are UK based. You have MPC, Frame Store, ex-MPC, Frame Store, DNEG. You have European studios, you have Australian studios. So they feel they are, and they know we'll be hiring talent across the board. So they look up to us to bring fresh ideas to the table, right?
Brilliant.
So that spans across the gamut of technology, storytelling, creativity, creative partnership, and I've experienced the same. So,
talking about geographies, I think Siva, Rodeo is in Canada, it's in France, and now you're starting up a big studio in Bangalore. Beyond adding capacity, what is that are you looking for as a vision for Rodeo in India?
Thank you, Sreyans. Before going to that question, I would like to thank Animation Express for this opportunity. It is always good to be in a room where we have like-minded people, people who are the future for this particular industry.
I think I have a beautiful panel. I should have thanked Animation Express and VAM, and everybody has done that on my behalf. So thank you.
Save 3 minutes.
I would have saved 3 minutes. Go on, Shiva.
Yeah, talking about the studio, I think what is easy for this group to understand is probably talk about the goals, the short-term goals of. I think that can talk about what we are running towards. So I think it's very interesting. Sebastian, who is the CEO for RodeoFX, he was here in March, and then the only thing he told me is, Shiva, this facility we are putting together, they should be able to handle VFX content end to end. We will send you scenes, full scenes. You should be able to, right from start to end, you should be able to do. So I think that's where people are looking at us as a country and the belief in the talent we have. And similarly, I think already in Micros, I think we have been doing features for some time.
Okay.
And right now, over the years, initially when we started, we used to do at 75% efficiency. What I mean by that is if someone is assigned 2 seconds per week or 1 second per week, we would do 0.75 seconds in that week. But right now, we are doing head to head with them. And at times, I can proudly say we might
A little
even
better.
support. Yeah. So I think these are clear goals for the direction in which we are going to be going. And personally for me, what is always very close to me is what is the culture of the place. So I think when we build this place, when we put it together, for me I am very clear it should be a place where I think people working should be happy. I think they should be feeling like they are contributing to the ecosystem. So I think creative freedom. And so this is
Creating global content, perfect. So in terms of these creative partnerships that you have, is there a percentage of work that actually comes to you? Is there a predefined person that, hey, if you're going to take this film or we're going to do this, are you involved right from the pre-production process where you are visualizing what kind of content are you be creating and then get onto the post-production world? How much amount of creative inputs do each one of you have and how much influence do you actually see on screen?
Maybe I can start with that because I think we are involved right from the bidding stage. So we at that stage itself we actually know I think what is the areas where I think Bangalore team can actually start contributing. So far what we have been doing is at Micros I think the predominant presence is in Montreal, Paris and Bangalore. So we have been doing 30% of the show in Bangalore. So sometimes this 30% could be more of animation and modeling. But eventually, we are also moving into lighting and comp in Bangalore.
Okay.
So, but there is no hard and fast rule on this because what also dictates this is the budget and the tax credits you get. Because sometimes it is also beneficial for a studio to do a portion of it in other countries where the tax benefit actually adds to the client's budget.
Absolutely agree. What's your take on it, Kabir?
Yeah, I would say like what I'm experiencing here at ILM is that we are there from the start. I mean, some of the projects we've been lucky because if it's a Lucasfilm project or a Disney project, because we are under the same umbrella, we do get access way early. And I've been in situations where because we were bidding or there were budget challenges, we have suggested ways to shoot it this way or do it this way, which has gone through. Right? So we kind of dictate, and because visual effects plays so much important part that the directors are also open to kind of take the ideas from a VFX supervisor to, okay, let's do it this way, or you tell me how it should be done. So we are seeing that change because everyone knows that, you know, they don't want to spend too much time on post just because they've shot something wrong. Creative partnership wise, I can tell you that we are at par. You know, how we are doing things right now is that when work gets awarded to us, it's a full sequence. It's not departmentalized work that, okay, you just do animation or you just do lighting or you just do match move. It's entire sequence, and that's why we have the whole hierarchy of VFX soups, CG soups, com soups, department soups. And for us, we are able to deliver a shot from scratch till final comp, and we are doing client-facing roles as well. So definitely we are getting there. Obviously, budget plays a very important role on how the work gets assigned, how the work gets distributed.
I'm sure all panelists over here would agree
totally,
to that.
Totally. But I think we are at a point that I don't think we need to prove our creative thing. It's just we need to challenge ourselves with doing more complex work, and I think it's just going to get better from here.
I have an interesting question for at least Arjun and Abhishek. I know we were talking outside. With the democratization of the AI tools, I think we can create a huge amount of content at a fraction of a budget. And while I was talking to you, I was asking, what will actually be called as global content that appeals to masses or to certain segments of audiences? And we know any content that is created is global, right? You can have multiple avenues where you can put your content out there. But is it the core storytelling that we should be focusing on, or is it the manufacturing aspect of content creation we should be focusing on?
See, content creation is all about storytelling. At the heart of any content is the story and how it's been told, how honestly it has been told, the process to create content can, be very different. And honestly, as per me, the process is not as important as the story. The story is the heart of the content. So it's everybody who plans to make any content, you got to spend the most time on the story and not the process.
I agree with what Abhishek says. Even to your previous point, Shreyans, because we're talking about global content and we're talking about creative partnerships, it was nice to hear how Shiva and Kabir gave perspectives of how they're bringing, be it Canadian, French, and a lot of global American attention to the Indian market. Absolutely. India has been a destination for the last 2 decades for Western outfits, global outfits setting up, operations here in India, and there's no dearth of talent here. But I also want to look at it from a slightly different way, right? And I think that's what the essence of global content means is today you have people sitting in India who also have the wherewithal, ability, intention to share their work globally, right? So, classic example is of a film called Varanasi, where, veteran director Rajamouli sir is, of course, a deep vision filmmaker, but is open to collaborating with Western studios who might build and bring in the craft and the experience and the creativity as much as all of us are contributing to. So I think the world has become global in that context, that, back in the day you'd see any Western film, you'll have the rolling credits in the end with 200 Indian names. I think that game is changing, reverse
it's more
outsourcing.
than 1,000 names right now, or maybe 10,000
But it's
names.
nice to have a Western participation on Indian film.
Indian films,
because
I
that
agree.
shows the ambition of Indian film, that shows the scale of Indian films.
I think many good movies today, which we have seen, have some parts of it either influenced by Western talent that's placed out of India, or some of the European studios that have contributed some segments or some sequences. And I've also seen that to create that global visual, and when I say global visual, it's about a certain quality aspect that people would want to reach. It's about certain elements that that maybe we may not have the skill set or the technological ability to, at this point, reach that. We have seen that collaboration, so there is no stoppage of anybody to tell a story. Like, I want to tell the sequence. I'm not going to be limiting to what I have. I'm going to expand my horizon to get it from other places where possible.
And Shreyans, I think the idea is, of course, the story at the heart and the storytelling at the heart, but I think it's the authenticity of the storyteller. Because the more local you go, the more authentic you go, the more global it becomes, right? Absolutely. If you look at any successful filmmaker in the world, right, if you don't hone your own culture, you don't hone that element of what no one else can actually bring to the table, that's what makes it, I think, and it's a very ironic way of thinking, but the, deeper you go within the, the only way out is in, as Sadhguru would say. But I think authenticity is the core of that. Yeah.
Okay, I have a quick rapid fire. I know we have very limited time, so if all of you are ready for it,
Sure.
Just going to pose some questions, and one-word answers, quick answers. Okay, this one's for you, Shiva. Is there a way forward? Is a way forward specialized talent or multidisciplinary skills?
I think people should be open to doing multiple skills along with great attitude and open for learning.
Perfect. One film or series everyone in this industry should study.
Oh wow, that's a good one. Fight Club. I know.
Fight Club. Oh, amazing.
I don't know. It came to my mind. It's always been my favorite. There's so much to learn from that film. So yeah.
One thing that AI can't replace.
Humans?
That's okay. I have a very different theory to that. We should talk outside about it, but.
It's funny when today a computer asks you to prove that you are human.
100%. Okay. Best example for regional content going global. Not Varanasi, but anything else.
I think the last year we saw Chhawa, which is a story of Sambhaji Maharaj, the second highest grossing film in the country, and spectacular. I think a Marathi film today doing national numbers. I think all great examples. Yeah.
One trend that Indian studios should stop copying. Any one of you? It's a rapid fire.
So yeah, a lot of Indian studios just consider themselves an outsource hub. And I think so we need to start moving, because we are today living in a 50-year-old where China was 50 years ago, where we think, we're just a service industry. I think so it's time we changed our mindset and started, creating stuff for our own.
Arjun, for you, creative experimentation or structured frameworks?
creative frameworks.
Oh, you combine both of them, is it? Thank you so much for the wonderful panel here and for the amazing audience. I think one thing we all take back from here is content. No matter where it is created, what content is, it's always global. There's someone somewhere who's wanting to understand, listen, hear, and connect to your stories. So content is always global. Our jobs have been to take that story and make it visually appealing to different parts of the world and give that emotional rawness, that regional authenticity, as well as the aesthetics that the Hollywood or the Western world has set standards for. Thank you so much, all of you.